So whether Eddie goes sooner or later, the big question is who replaces him as England head coach? And I thought you were going to score.
Ask a better question, you get a better answer.
Hi guys, welcome back to Let's Discuss who could or should replace Eddie Jones, whether he goes before the World Cup, depending on what the RFU decide, or when his contract ends after the World Cup. It's a really interesting one. I was going to put a vote on this video, but from the hundreds of comments from the England is a mess video, I can see it's about 100 to 1 saying he should go now. So we're going to look at that option as well. In this video, I'm going to go through 5 options I think are possible. Now, depending whether Eddie Jones goes before or after the World Cup, that will affect things, and I'll discuss that. I'll also discuss a couple of other names, but I really want to know what you guys think. What are the names on your list? Who's the most likely? Who do you want the most as well? Get in the comments. It's the thing I like most about doing these videos. I learned so much from you guys. Get in there. Tell me what you think. Now, whatever the RFU decides, Eddie is going after the 2023 World Cup. Maybe he's going to go to the USA to try and get them up to speed as his last job before they host in 2031. That's a pretty big job because, they didn't even qualify for this World Cup, so they've got a long way to go, but there is time. And it's an interesting thought experiment. Who might replace Eddie Jones as head coach? But let's get into the 5 options I think are possibles. In an ideal world, I probably would go for an English coach. I don't mind a foreign coach at all. But if you know the country, you know the system, you know the psyche, you know the players a bit better, maybe you've even played for the country before, it does help. It's not essential because you can get that in your backroom staff, but I think it's a preferable option, but I am open-minded. So number 1 option for me, I think, is Andy Farrell. And I think he's probably the one that ticks the most boxes. He's coached internationally, with England as an assistant, with Ireland as a head coach, experience with the British and Irish Lions. He's also played for England at Rugby League and Rugby Union. He's proven to be an excellent tactician with Ireland, really good modern attacking systems and a vicious defence, which is what he was originally well known for. And he's known as one of the best motivators in the game, as well as being straight talking. So he literally fits perfectly. The problem is, why would he want to leave Ireland, and why would Ireland want him to leave? Whether it's now, which I think is definitely off, or after the World Cup, even if they have a really bad World Cup, I've got a sneaky suspicion that Ireland would certainly want to retain him. And also you've got to think of contracts as well, and Ireland have him signed up till 2025. Obviously you can leave with mutual consent, you can buy out contracts, etc. But it's going to be a real tricky one. I think it possibly is the biggest hurdle. So probably I think the only scenario is if Ireland have an absolute shocker, maybe don't get out of the group, which is possible because they're in a hard group. You've got South Africa, you've got Scotland. I think knowing Farrell, he'd want to carry on. He knows he's got a good group of players. There'd be unfinished business there. So I think it would be really tricky to get hold of Farrell even after the World Cup. So even though he's my preferred option, I think it's fairly unlikely that he does come. So if Andy Farrell maybe isn't realistic, the second person on my list would be Steve Borthwick, currently coaching at Leicester as a head coach, also has been with England with Eddie Jones and with Japan with Eddie Jones as well. So he's got some head coach experience now, if not international. And I think importantly, he's had success wherever he's gone. He does bring results. He's very well known for being detailed, for being tactical, particularly in the forwards. Obviously, it's going to be a different role for him as head coach. And he's another coach that players like to play for. He's very, very no-nonsense. I think we'd see a very honest approach, like Andy Farrell in press conferences, say, and with players. That'd be very interesting. And there is a possibility that under Borthwick, England might not play as expansive maybe as other coaches. I don't know. The Leicester way is very forwards orientated. He's a forward, but who knows what he'll go for. Now, I'm pretty sure Steve Borthwick probably does aspire to be England head coach one day. Maybe it's a bit early. Maybe he's got more to achieve with Leicester, he would think. They haven't won the Premiership yet, and he thinks that's a possibility. Well, it is a possibility. Now, I'm not sure about contracts with Leicester as well, how long he's got left. It probably is easier to buy out from a club than a country. But he does tick a lot of the boxes, and I'd love him to be England coach one day, if not the next England coach. Now, number 3 on my list is a very exciting option, and one I think is more probable than the other two, and that is Scott Robertson. The Crusaders coach had so much success over there and clearly wants the New Zealand job, as all New Zealand coaches do and should, of course, but he does lack international experience. So you could argue it's quite a good stepping stone for him to go to England, then to New Zealand. Now, does England want to be seen as a stepping stone? Well, if it gets us a great coach, then whatever, to be honest. There's definitely an interesting discussion over the length of contract the RFU would offer him and the length of contract Scott Robertson would want. Let's say Eddie Jones goes before the World Cup. Would the RFU offer 1 year with an option to extend? Because if New Zealand get rid of Foster after the World Cup, then Robertson would probably want to be free and in the frame, and the RFU might want to look at the other options available after the World Cup. So that would be an interesting one, but I could see it happening. I think he still has a contract with the Crusaders, but they could probably work something out. So it could be a win-win for the RFU and Scott Robertson. We get a very talented coach, even if it is for a shorter period of time. He gets the experience, and maybe he keeps his options open for New Zealand as well. So maybe if he is available and Eddie Jones does go before the World Cup, it's a good option then, and maybe it's a good option after the World Cup, depending what New Zealand do as well. Now, number 4 on my list is Shaun Edwards. I know he's best known as an assistant coach, as a defence coach, but I think he would want to be a head coach one day, and he's an Englishman through and through, so I'm sure he'd love to be England head coach as well one day. Now, one of the criticisms with the RFU is they didn't get him when he was available. He's working with France now. He's doing a good job. He's enjoying it. Sure, it's tough because, when you don't speak French, it's a bit tough, but he's doing a good job. And he signed an extension till 2027 because, well, why wouldn't you if no one else is offering you anything and you're there with a good team like France? Why wouldn't you? So there would be definitely tricky negotiations with contracts if it was possible at all. Could they come to a mutual agreement? I don't know. But Shaun Edwards as England head coach would be an exciting prospect, and I think one that fans would certainly enjoy and players as well would relish. Now, the final option I want to talk about in this video is actually Rob Baxter. There's one more coach I've actually discounted. I'll talk about him in a minute. But Baxter's an interesting option. Maybe he's not as strong in international experience as the others, or certainly not, but coaching experience he's very strong. As a head coach, director of rugby, obviously loads of experience with Exeter. Now, how much does he want to be England head coach? I don't know, but if he's approached, maybe he does. Could it be the final thing he achieves in his coaching career? It would be interesting. Maybe he would be available. He has stepped away a little bit from the on-field coaching at Exeter. I don't know if that makes him a bit more available. Or now maybe the lack of international experience does count against him a bit, but everything else suggests he could be a really good England head coach. Now, the name I've left out is Warren Gatland. Now, he could technically do a great job with England, I'm sure. He's got all the experience and he's probably available as well for the right price. But would he really want to come? Would the fans really want him there? I think they'd accept him, especially if he did well. But when you have that animosity between the old enemy, even though it is friendly between England and Wales mainly, I think it might be just a bit too far to push it. And I'm not sure the potential unrest is quite worth it for Gatland or England either. So I'm discounting him, but let me know if you think he is a feasible option. There have been rumours that Warren Gatland is going to replace Wayne Pivac. If Pivac gets the sack, that would be a more feasible option for sure. Okay, this is a really big topic and I'd love to know your picks for the next England head coach, whether it should be now or after the World Cup, although I think I might know the answer to that. Get all the comments below and I'll catch you next time.